everyone, and welcome to the Pink Table Talk. I am your host, Loria Reed, and once again, we are back with great topics for women. And of course, our men that we love so much, they sneak in and come and hear what we have to say. But today, y'all, we have a great treat for you. I have three, not one, not two, but three guys that are here to help us understand, first of all, how men operate, what they're thinking, their thought patterns, and all of those things. So the title is Decoded. We are decoding what we hear versus what men are saying. So please, right now, go ahead on, start sharing it. Call your friends, text them, let them know that we've got men on here that are going to talk to us real candid conversations to let us know everything that we need to know to proceed, whether you're single, married, mom. If you've got a man in your life in any kind of aspect, you need to be listening to this today, okay? All right, so let me introduce our guest while you're doing that. Our first guest is my homeboy. He's from Macon, Georgia. He's a great guy. He's been a youth pastor over 10 years. He's now the assistant pastor at the Amwell Baptist Church in Mobile, Alabama. He's got all the degrees, the pedigrees. He's a real guy, and I really love him. He's like family. Would you all welcome Pastor Trayon Woolfolk? Hello, Reverend Trey.
Hey, everybody. Hey, thanks, Luria, for having me on.
So glad you're with us. Our next pastor, I am so glad that he was able to take time to come on here with us today. I was introduced to him by our pastor when we had our family conference at House of Hope Atlanta last year in 2019, and he taught our singles class. And I was that person that was kind of overhearing the singles stuff because it kind of started sounding repetitive, but he was amazing. And I've been following his ministry ever since then. He is an awesome pastor of the New Home Family Worship Center in New Orleans, Louisiana. He's an awesome guy, and we are glad and privileged to have him with us today. Would you all welcome Bishop Samuel Blakes? Bishop.
Hey, Luria, it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share today.
Yes, sir. So glad you're here. And lastly, but definitely not leastly, he's the man who needs no introduction. He is Hope TV. He's the House of Hope Atlanta. We all love him. He's the one that comes on. Let me make sure I say it right. He says, if he were an average God, he would deserve an average praise. If he were a mediocre God, he would deserve a mediocre praise. But because he's a great God, he deserves a great praise. Would you all welcome Andrea's husband, Colin and Kamara's daddy, and our pastor, Dr. E. Dewey Smith Jr.
What's up, Luria? You're your daddy's daughter.
Look, I've been working on that introduction for a minute. Was it good? Did you like it? I said, oh, I get to introduce him for the first time in my life. This is so awesome. But thank you so much, the three of you guys, for being here. I really appreciate you. So
Good to see my brothers. Glad y'all my brothers.
Yeah. So we're all like family here. Pastor Trey is representing, I want to make sure I say this, our millennial men. So when he says some things, ladies, that you don't understand if you're about 50 and up or 60 and up, just don't go through the screen because it might kind of shock you. But that's just the way it is, okay? All right, so we're going to get started. We're going to talk first about communication. One thing, and I was talking to one of my friends about this, when she talked to her husband, she said she'll ask him, he'll go to an event, and she'll say, how was the event? And he'll say, oh, it was cool, it was good. And if she talked, and me and her husband were at the same event, she called me, Loretta, how was the event? Oh, they had pink this, they had purple, and then such and such was here, and daughter. And she's like, oh, why didn't you tell me any of that? But we communicate different. So how, as women, can we, what's the word for it? Do we have to just accept that you all are not like us in communication? Or how do we get you to open up? So, Pastor, do you want to be the first one, Pastor Dewey, to get started?
I'm gonna defer to my brothers.
Okay. All right. Well, Bishop Blakes, you want to get us started?
I'm going to defer to the young man since he's a millennial.
Who's going to be the first to get in the water today? They scared already. Y'all see how we scaring them? Trayon, come on in here. You can do it. You ain't got nothing to lose. Let's go. Can you hear me? You can't hear me. Are you serious or are you being funny? You hear me very well. Go ahead on. Tell us about this communication thing. Can you hear for
I'm
real?
gonna log out. Can y'all hear me?
No. Yes, we hear you fine. We hear you good.
I'm not good at reading lips, Reed. I'm not.
Oh, he can't hear for real.
Okay.
Can you hear for real or are you
Hold on.
playing?
Oh, he really can't hear.
Hey.
He can't hear for real.
I got you.
He can't hear us for real.
He plays so much. I don't know if he playing or not, but
Right.
let me just try to take a stab at that question. I mean, my 2 cents. I think women do communicate more. You guys have. I think I read something somewhere that says women speak 15,000 words a day, and a man may speak 7,500 words a day. So by the time a man gets home from work, or typically, this is a generalization, but this is what I read somewhere, he's out of words, and the wife still has 7,500 words left. So I think there's a difference. But I also think it's about what we communicate about too. I mean, I think a man communicates about something. If it's a football game or something that we're interested in, I think we're able to communicate a little more about it. And I think it depends, like an event that you're talking about, it depends on what that event is. If we're interested in something, if I'm in New Orleans, if Bishop Blake's and I are talking about Drew Brees versus the Atlanta Falcons, or the New Orleans Pelicans game, or the Essence Festival, we can communicate in mass about those things that we're interested in. So I think sometimes maybe a matter of interest. That's how I answer that question.
That makes sense though. Okay. I can accept that. That makes a lot of sense.
I would piggyback on that and say certainly it's a matter of interest, but also I think what many women don't understand is men are tone sensitive, and certain tones ignite quietness in us, because those tones will take us to a place called there. So to avoid going there, we quiet down, or we shut down, or we don't talk. First of all, we don't talk as much. So ladies have to kind of learn to give it to us in doses, so that we can engage them periodically. But we can't talk. You can't talk while the game is going on. We can't talk while all of this other stuff is going on. We got to know tones. We got to know times.
Right. That makes sense. Thank you. Those were 2 good answers too. Because I was just trying to figure out, how can you hear us now, Pastor Trey?
I can. My dial-up was acting up.
Okay. The question was, we're talking about communication and how can you get a man to open up while you're trying to figure out what he's thinking. So what are ways that you can get a man to open up as a woman?
Well, I think the first thing is I think women have to release themselves from feeling like they need to know everything that's going on with the man, because there are some things that we process differently, and that process usually does not involve a conversation, or at least not externally, so to speak. And so I think first, you have to kind of pick your battles with that kind of thing. Sometimes it's not necessarily a need that you just want to know. You just want to know what's going on. But sometimes you have to allow your man to exist in his own world, because that's where we are, And I think after you release yourself from that, and when those opportunities are where you feel like, okay, I really need to know what's going on, you definitely gotta pick those periods and times. As I heard pieces of what Bishop was just saying, which is very true. You have to really pick those times, those spots, because approaching at the wrong time, especially when you a man that has a lot of responsibilities, he's leading a lot of stuff. That man, his time is his most precious asset, and so being able to respect that and show him that you respect that is probably going to put him in a position where he may want to share better. But, you know, there's certain times that we just not trying to talk. But I just think sometimes women are more preoccupied with knowing everything that's in his head as opposed to developing their own personal security, I think. I hope I don't.
In other words, leave me alone. You just said.
What? No, I think sometimes women can be, and this is not all women, of course. I don't want to get any letters or emails, but you know, I think that women can be very preoccupied with knowing everything and want to have their hands on everything, and you have to kind of allow your man to process. And most of our process is all cerebral. It's all mental, and so I think you have to take that kind of stuff into consideration. And when the I need to talk to you is persistent and consistent and all of that stuff, then it's like, then you're gonna discourage it because you're doing it so much.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Pastor,
those words scared me. Yeah. When you just said, I need you. Can you let us know how that phrase, what that does to you if a woman comes and you say, we need to talk? What happens when a woman says that?
My first reaction is, now I got to think back over the last 2 years of perhaps what I may have said, have done, I didn't do, you know, because women are historical when it comes to that kind of stuff, because they'll bring something back from May 17, 2017, that, you know, y'all was at Applebee's together, and, you know, and something you didn't pull out the chair or something like that. You just never know sometimes. And the slightest thing can trigger. So sometimes, to be honest with you, most men I know, including myself, when you hear that I got to talk, now I got to try to beat you to wherever I went wrong in your eyes, which could be anywhere.
Can I
He said,
that?
which could be anywhere. Go ahead, Bishop. I'm sorry.
I think that most of the time when you hear those words, it's never anything good. So what it does is it triggers defense mechanisms.
Right.
So automatically, you know, I'm on guard and I'm on high alert, because nothing good ever comes behind that. It's never, I want to talk to you about being a good husband. I want to talk to you about being a good provider. I want to talk to you about being a good anything. Normally, it's problematic.
That's
so it automatically causes me to be on the edge, and my nerves are bad, and I'm defensive from the get-go when I hear that, you know, that phraseology, if you will.
I got you. What should we say then? What if we need to talk? What should we say? Should we just start talking, or?
Well, let me say this. I think it is important to everybody, not just women, to speak not only your dislikes, but your likes. See, because when all I hear is your dislikes, I am automatically defensive when you come at me. But when you tell me that you like something about me, or when you share with me what you do like about me, it makes it easier for me to process what you don't like. But if all I hear is you don't do this and you don't do that and you're not this and you're not that, you know, you have put me on edge, and it is inevitably going to be a warfare of words.
I like that term.
You know,
go ahead, Pastor.
Laria, you know,
yes, sir.
I remember your dad once taught a married couples retreat for me. And he said, even when we talk to the Lord, Jesus said, when you pray, say, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Yeah.
You know, you're the king. Your kingdom come. Your will be done. And once you give me some superlatives and let me know I'm the king and your will be done, once you get all that out the way first, now you can say, give me this day. Yeah. He said a lot of women just jump straight to give me this day, and without any affirmation. So I agree with what Bishop just said. You know, he right. You know, sometimes we place on a defensive position because it's always what's negative. And sometimes we do the same thing even with our kids. You know, you can talk we never affirm them. It's always you have a conversation with someone's dad. And I think Bishop is right. Both of them are right on that. And but your dad taught that one day. Even when we pray, we don't just go to God any kind of way. We need to talk. We don't do God like that.
Right.
Give some affirmation. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay, so ladies, while we're listening, let's go ahead on, continue to share this, continue to like this, and let your girlfriends know we're on here now. Now, for some of you who are on here saying, well, why don't they let us talk? We'll come to Man Cave to do that, but this is the Pink Table Talk. We letting them talk so we can understand what's going on, so we can help everybody, okay? All right, before I go to my next question, because I can already feel it's coming. I know how my sisters are. So our next question that we have from a lot of the women is, we have men in our lives. This could be a son, this could be a husband, somebody you want to date. They may have a relationship with God, but how do we communicate to them the importance of church, congregating amongst the saints, being with other men? What are some, I don't want to say tactics to bring them in, but what would make a man want to come to church? That's what we really want to know. Who wants to start with that one? I see y'all processing.
I'll start.
Okay.
One of the things you got to do is you got to stop beating your husbands over the head with church when you come from church, because what you do is you make church the enemy, and you make the pastor the enemy. You make that man feel like another man is running his house from the pulpit. So you can't just keep badgering and beating. My pastor said this, my pastor said that, because what you're developing is a disdain in the heart of that brother, or in the mind of that brother, for that pastor, because he's supposed to be the man of that house, but all she's talking about is what the pastor said. So the first thing you got to do is you got to stop putting the pastor and the church in a position where the brother is made to dislike and made to have an issue with.
Wow.
That's so
That's
true.
I agree. That's so true. Because sometimes what happens is when women, utilize like the pastor said, and the pastor becomes a spiritual side dude almost, and whatever he says penetrates the relationship. And what it does, it builds this adversarial mentality in the opposing person. It could be your husband, it could be your son that may not be in church, that may be a little wayward, but if you continue to beat him over the head with the Bible, and you continue to do that's a turnoff. You're pushing him away. But instead of saying that grace and just inviting them in, but the whole thing, even when you're fishing, you got to catch the fish before you clean it. And so the idea of trying to clean it before you catch it, it's impossible, and you're going to lose the fish. And so sometimes I think when sisters, well intentioned, I might add, they approach it, you have to be careful, because what you think may be helping may actually be hurting the whole process overall.
Let me just add, because I agree with everything you just said in terms of the adversarial relationship. One of the things I'm discovering too is certain churches, I hope this comes across the right way. Some churches don't attract men. Men are attracted to manhood.
Yes,
and
sir.
Unfortunately, some things we have done in the church, some of the people that we platform don't represent masculinity or manhood. And so sometimes if men go to a place where Jesus is not presented in a strong masculine kind of format, sometimes it turns us rather than attracts us to it. So if a church doesn't have a strong male presence, or if it's very effeminate, I'm trying to say it the right way. A lot of men, that's why the Nation of Islam got 75% men and 25% women. Most Christian churches got 25% men, 75% women, because we manhood and strength. And sometimes the church you attend, if the culture is not representative of strength and manhood, sometimes Sometimes the man doesn't want to be a part of that. So that's a variable. I know some
Wow.
people may not want to hear that, but it's true. Men are attracted to
That's very
strength in
true.
men.
Amen.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
would say that one of the strengths of the church I pastor, and one of the reasons we attract such a strong concentration of men is because when they come there, they see men and they see men in action. But let me add something else, brothers. I think one of the reasons we can't get men in the church is because of the way the church operates. And when I talk about that, I'm talking particularly about timing. A man is not going to come there and have 5-hour service with you every week.
Absolutely not.
Man wants to
Neither
get to
am
the Falcons game.
I. Ain't coming either.
He wants to get She said me either. And
We both can agree on that.
the average man's favorite scripture in the entire Bible is "Let my people go."
I can believe it.
That's so true.
That makes
Yeah.
so much sense.
Most women will shout all day with you, but men, they there's a statute of limitation on shouting now.
90 minutes or less, man.
Right.
Yes,
Ready
sir.
to roll.
That's it. That is it.
What my next question, we were talking to some ladies and they wanted to understand with the culture and the climate of America right now, even with the young boy who was just shot, just running down the street, black boys, black men, we see it everywhere. Always a gun down, always something happening. How does it feel? And we really want women to understand every day having to get up, just those pressures in the back of your mind of being a black male in America. What does it feel like? Do you all have a, because I know a lot of times you all don't communicate it. We were just talking about the communication thing, but what does it feel like every day to have to be in a society that doesn't necessarily accept you? And this can be job wise, it can be just wherever you are every day. We hear about it, but we never really ask you, how do you feel? Even with your accomplishments, at the end of the day, you're still a black man, so what do you feel like every day? Are those things in the back of your head, or are you able to cope? How does that operate for you?
Well, for me, and I can say this, grew up South Macon, Bloomfield area, and to this day, I only have one speeding ticket to my name. But every single time a policeman is behind me, I am completely nervous, completely afraid, paranoid. I'm making sure I'm have the steering wheel at the appropriate angles and all of those kinds of things because it's nerve wracking. It is. I mean, as accomplished as I am, being a pastor, going to school, having a master's degree, all of that stuff. I realize when that officer comes to my car, they don't see any of that. They just see a black man. I was pulled over in Middle Georgia some years ago, and just because really I actually was sitting out the side of the road because my car started stopped working or whatever, and I went and was going back and forth between the driver's side into the front hood, and the guy came out and he was so defensive. He popped the little thing that holds his gun and had his hand on his gun. Mind you, I'm wearing jeans, a half zip polo sweater, and some loafers. How threatening could I be? But I was treated as if I was, and maybe he just saw the Bibb County tag, which is from Macon, and I don't know if that was just an assumption. But it's I have to prove that I'm innocent. I don't have, other races have to prove that they're guilty. I have to prove that I'm not a threat, and that to live in a culture like that, and it's been like that. Racism now. I think Will Smith said it best. He said it's not new. It's just being filmed now. But I've lived in fear of unjust police brutality my entire life, just because when they see me, they don't see any of the things. I remember one of the officers because he called for backup. He literally put me on the car. I'm sitting. I've never been in this position in my life. And he asked me, how many times you been locked up? And I said, none. And he said, none? And he sounded so surprised that there's a young African American male who has never been to jail. And I said, no, sir, I've never been locked up. And I guess they looked my information up and realized, oh, he's one of the good ones. But why do I have to prove that I'm one of the good ones? And so just to live in that world, that's why I think for those sisters that do have black men, build up your black men, because on top of trying to be great and trying to grind and do other things, we live in a world where it's just dangerous for us to get up and walk outside. So yeah, so I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go on my tangent, but
no, that was fine. That was good. That was good. Bishop?
Disrespected and angry would probably be the words that I would use to best describe what it's like to be a black man in America. We spend our lives living respectfully only to be disrespected. We spend our lives earning respect only to be disrespected. And it's disheartening, particularly with, this political climate and this president who I think has facilitated a whole lot of mess in America. And give you, it was already there. He just stirred it up. It's sort of like fire hidden by ashes. He just stirred it up. It was covert. He's made it overt, and it's disrespectful. It makes you live with your fist balled up and always ready to defend yourself. And I don't think a person who has lived respectfully and done everything they could to be respected should have to live on the edge trying to prove yourself every day of your life, that you are as much man as anybody or as good as anyone.
Wow. That's good. Pastor?
I concur with everything my brothers have said. I think for me, I guess you get used to it, and it's a culture, you're always, suspect and suspicious. I think for me, it's kind of taken a different turn recently. Now that I got a 19-year-old who's driving, he and his friends at Morehouse, freshmen at Morehouse, a few months ago, had an incident where somebody mistook, there was a case of mistaken identity, and literally shot 22 bullets into the vehicle. By the grace of God, nobody got hit. So they called the police to meet them back on campus. The police met them on campus, and they get on campus, and the white police officer has the driver in handcuffs and has them on the ground. These guys have been victimized, shot at 22 times, cars riddled with bullets, and you've been victimized, and now the police who are sworn to serve and protect, these guys have been in trouble with the law a day in their lives, and so now here they are calling the police for protection, and now you're on the ground and in handcuffs. And so it just really took it to another level for me, because now it's one thing to have to worry about myself when I'm out there, because I know how, I kind of know how to navigate, but now having to teach him how to navigate. He's not here, what to do, and put your hands here, do this and do that. So it's brought another level of another level of anxiety and thought that, every time that boy leaves or goes wherever, the thoughts and the concerns and the extra prayers, the Lord take care of him so he doesn't make the wrong move, because I'm not there to watch over him and navigate it. So, and then here again, I could be out there caught up like that as well. So it's not a good feeling, and I think that's why it's so important, as Bishop said, that people know how to build each other up. And I think even the church, because sometimes the church does a bad job of beating up on men, and I just think we just got to be careful about that as well, because we need uplifting. That's the truth.
Absolutely.
Wow. Thank y'all for that.
And mind you, to piggyback, mind you, the thoughts that my brother just talked about having when his son leaves the house are thoughts that a white father doesn't have to even
do.
process in his mind.
Mm. Wow. Wow. With that being said, one of our questions was, what can we as women do to support you? And we hear that a lot. We need y'all to support us. What does support look like to you? And this can be from relationships to church to wherever it is in your life. What is that support that you're about? Because we hear support, but what does that mean? I need your support as a woman. Y'all thinking? Everybody's like, what is that?
I think we all double dutching right there, trying to figure out who's gonna jump in that fire first.
Go ahead, Treon.
So just to make sure I'm understanding the question correctly. You're saying from a man to woman, saying
Yes.
how can she support? Well,
Correct.
I think Pastor Smith said it so eloquently earlier when he was talking about the superlatives. He was talking about, I think, affirmation. We forget how powerful that can be. You don't know what kind of environment that man works in. You don't know what he has to face, and the last thing he needs when he comes home or when he wakes up is, you didn't do this, or you didn't do that, or man, you forgot this. It's like that building up. You go to a world that beats you up. You go and you drive on highways with police officers who automatically consider you to be a threat. And when you come home, you don't want to be treated like a threat. And so I think creating a place where that man, I think Delilah in the Bible had it right in some regard. She gave Samson a place to lay his head. And that's really how she was able to get him, because she gave him a place to lay his head. I think every man, every Samson, every strong man needs a place to lay his head. Not a place that he's going to be nagged, not a place that he's going to feel less than, but a place, a safe place where he can lay his head and just be vulnerable. But when those places are not created, there's so much tension, and you force that man. It's like shaking up a soda, and you just sit it there, and and the slightest little turn of that top will make it explode. And then then the man is crazy. Then he got a temper problem. No, you've been shaking that bottle, Sugarfoot. You got to stop shaking it, and you've got to put that man in a place where he's comfortable, he feels safe. I've told sisters that I've been involved with, be my safe place. Be a place that I can be safe, and then I'll feel comfortable and supported. So that's what I would say. That's how you can support a man. Just give him a safe place to lay his head.
Mm-hmm. All right, Pastor or Bishop, whichever one.
Be the cheerleader. Don't be the deflator of your man. Be the encourager of your man. Men spend most of their lives trying to prove their worthiness to their women, or prove themselves to their women. They spend most of their lives doing what they do because they want to be big in her eyes. And many times what happens is that man finds a woman who is always talking about how good another man is, but never mentions what he does. So she makes large in her eyes a man outside of her house, while she demeans the man within her house. The man who's paying the bills, the man who is getting up every day fighting, even if he's not the chief breadwinner. Even if you make more money than him, understand that he is your man, and as you support him, he is the head, and the body never goes where the head does not take it. I've never gotten up in the morning and my head was in one place and my body was in another. The body goes as the head goes. God scripturally calls the man the head of the family, the head of the wife, and the head is what determines the destination of the body. So if you demean that man, really what you're doing is your family is suffering from self-inflicted wounds because you're
Wow.
killing your head. You're killing your head, and ultimately, if you kill your head, guess what? Your body is going to die. So you got to be an encourager. You cannot be a discourager. You cannot make your man the victim in the house. You have to make him the king of that house. And understand, making him king does not make you lesser. Wherever there's a king, there's a queen somewhere. So as you make him large, you're really catapulting your family, your house, and everything that pertains to you. I mean, think about this. We live in a society that purposely demeans particularly the black man. And I believe it is intentional. They don't use trees anymore for lynching. They use prison systems.
Right.
Why? Because they want to kill the potency and the influence of the black man, because it's understood that if that man thrives, everything pertaining to him is going to thrive. That's why Jesus said on that hillside, and I don't mean to talk too much, he said, make the men sit down, because it was understood. Now, there were more women and children on that hillside than men, but Jesus says, make the men sit down, because it was understood that whatever the man did, women and children were going to follow. So be as encouraging, push him to the next level, because he cannot go to the next level without you. And your voice matters. That's why Adam ate that fruit, because his voice mattered.
We got the influence.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I concur with everything my brothers have said. I think when we talk about what respect looks like, you know, men can take a lot of things, but when a man feels disrespected, you know, when a man feels like his manhood is disrespected, you know, I've seen guys lose their lives over what they felt was disrespect. Now, to somebody else from the outside looking in, you may think it was trivial and small, but when a man feels like he's disrespected, those are fighting words it brings out. And when a man is disrespected everywhere else, and that's why even in the old church, some of the deacons were so authoritative when they went to church, because when they worked in the fields as sharecroppers, and you know, and they were treated as less than all day. They go home, and the wife tells the children what to do, so they feel like she circumvented their power, their authority at home. So the only place they had some sense of worth and some sense of leadership.
Wow.
So since they couldn't lead anywhere else, when they came to church, I'm a deacon in the church, so I'm going to hold this office to the highest regard and fight whoever. Not because I'm a bad person, but because it's the only place I got a sense of dignity and respect. And I don't know what they didn't know what being a deacon meant, but just the title gave them a sense of honor. And so I think a lot of men a lot of men I've talked to felt that the wife or the significant other doesn't give them the respect, and will use disrespect as a way to motivate. I just think, as both of you just said, a woman has power. A woman can almost get anything she wants at the beginning of the time. There's a certain strength that comes with that femininity, and all it takes is the wisdom and the Sabbath. A woman can get anything she wants from a man who loves a woman. Because
say that again.
I mean, if she knows how to work it, you know, and she can get anything she wants from him. It's just a matter of, you know, realizing that we sometimes develop later. Sometimes men, we mature at a slower pace. That's even biologically proven. Girls sometimes mature quicker, physiologically speaking. So sometimes we do mature a little later. Sometimes it takes us a little longer to get it. But when we get it, and when a man knows he has somebody who's going to ride for him, be down like 4 flat, he'll go to the ends of the earth with her. But when you feel like you're not respected, not appreciated, I think that's one of the greatest things, you know, women can do, is show that honor, that respect, that appreciation. I've seen it.
Wow.
The fundamental need of a woman is security. The fundamental need of a man is respect.
Absolutely.
I let that sound. That was good. I had to chew that one and swallow that one all the way down.
Yeah.
I had to pause. It kind of caught me. I was
That's
like,
true.
"Ooh, yeah,
That's
all
true.
right. I like that. Very good. Okay, y'all, this was part one. This was just part one, guys. We have talked about some good stuff. So if you just came in at the end, go back, rewatch it. Part one was amazing. We talked about communication. We talked about being a Black man in church. We didn't talk about everything in this part one. Now, part two, we're going to talk about relationships, married, single, all of that. So make sure that you tune in for that. But thank you, Dr. E. Dewey Smith, Bishop Samuel Blakes, Pastor Trayon Woolfolk for being with us on this part one. Love y'all so much, and we'll see you for part two.